Welcome to Cake with Kelsey. I'm Kelsey, along with Kinetic 100 tonight. How you doing, Kinetic?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. Happy
Okay.
week.
Sorry?
Happy week.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Happy Tuesday, happy week, all that good stuff. Happy Black History Month, all of that.
Very, very much.
Um, we are a little delayed for our live listeners, so apologies. Just a little technicality there, but we are here and we'll be here for a little while. You know how we do. So um, thank you for joining us. If you'd like to invite your friends to listen in, join the conversation, send them over to vexradio.com and tell them to check the very top of the screen where the link is posted. Click that link and they will be transported straight to the show where you can actually watch, listen, and interact with us. You can call in a little later using Google Hangouts, or you can post your comments, questions during the show right on the screen on the right-hand side for most people, or if you're on your mobile device, it's somewhere below, but it's all different. You'll figure it out. Vexradio.com, again, for anyone that would like to invite their friends. If you listen normally 24/7, that's where you can hear the best in hip hop, R&B. I'll remind you of that a little later, and other things that you can check out on vexradio.com. If you're listening to the podcast, thanks for checking us out, and feel free to share the link with your people. And again, leave comments, questions. We'll be checking throughout, and I'm going to be a little more active on Twitter. So I'm going to invite you to tweet your questions and comments as well. I'm going to be checking that tonight. Cake with Care C is the handle, as well as on Instagram and Facebook. So got all of that out of the way. Kinetic,
Yeah.
how bad is it out there? That's the other issue we're dealing with tonight, February
You
7th.
know what? Believe it or not, if you're standing still, it's bad. But the roads aren't bad because everybody's driving on them, right?
Yeah,
So it's not
I
like
guess.
it's slippery out. It's just that it's just icy. And when
Yeah,
it'll freeze over if you're standing still.
okay. So don't stand still, people. No, I guess it's kind of it's warming up a bit. I think they were saying it's supposed to
Yeah.
warm up a bit. So, and if you're on major roads, right? So, and for me, I usually take major roads, so I don't really feel too much of it. But the posts I've been seeing all day on or all afternoon on social media has been crazy, like ice everywhere. So yeah, be careful if you're listening to us live on your device during your drive. Some people do. So yeah, focus on the roads and get home safely. So as I mentioned last week and at the top of the show, we do have some guests. Or did I mention? I didn't mention that, but I mentioned last week that we were going to have some guests, and I've posted all over my social media platforms. So I'd like to welcome, ladies first, Elaine Robinson of Ghetto Stories.
Good evening.
Okay, and Keith Hill Jr.
Good
Um,
night.
and Keith, I was about to say, and I have to double check. I was going to say author, but I feel there's so much more that you do, and I don't know if you go by that title, if you have a title. So in your introduction, you can kind of clear that up for me as well. And if I could refer to you as an author, you have written a couple of books, one that we discussed the last time you were on the show last year, and so and a new one. So I'd like to, yeah, if we can go back and take a look at what's been happening with your first release since then. I'd like to do that, but I'll let Elaine introduce herself. If you're Elaine Robinson, if you could tell us more about your initiative, like what Ghetto Stories and why it exists, and yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, greetings and blessings. And yeah, the Ghetto Stories is about conversations about people who have come from what I refer to as insurmountable odds.
Mhm.
So it's the place where people when people hear the word ghetto, the first thing that comes to their mind is something, it's always negative,
Mhm.
never positive. You're always hearing the worst of the worst of the worst. So my initiative is to reinvent or redefine how we use that word. And why are we so stuck on this word, and why does it always have to be so negative?
Mm.
And that
Okay.
and when you understand the ghetto, that there's so many beautiful, for me the ghetto is like a diamond. You know, the rough, how it's rough, but
Hmm.
when it shines, it's one of the most beautiful things that exist. So
Okay.
it'll be the showcase people who have come from the ghetto with stories, people who have written books. Your Mr. Keith Hill is one of them. Came up from one of our ghettos in Toronto. We have
Hmm.
lots and lots and lots of people who have gone through and they've made it. So the conversation is to find them, let them come and speak about their experiences to change lives. That's what this is all about. It's a humanist movement to change lives.
Amazing. Okay. So we'll
Yes.
get more into what it is you do specifically and a little and learn a little more about you. Keith, if you could let people know what you've been
Can I just
working on
can I
lately.
just
Yes.
point back to Elaine for a minute and say,
Yes, yes.
Miss Elaine, you forgot one of the most important aspects of your name. You didn't
Uh-oh.
describe the acronym and what ghetto
Oh,
stands
geez. Oh,
Uh,
I'm so caught up.
I
I
didn't
am
even
so,
catch that. Oh my
I was going, getting there slowly but surely.
God. Yeah,
So,
okay.
ghetto, getting higher education to teach others. That's the acronym,
Okay.
right? And when I say education, I'm not speaking about an institution where you go to read some books and learn some theories. I'm talking about education of self first,
Hmm.
right? That's where the education piece comes in, and the teach others is from each one teach one. Because and our stories are going to change the narrative. So from you hear the story, yeah, you know that you're not alone, and one thing we know is when we hear these things, it's going to change lives. So it's going to change you to have that conversation with somebody to change your lives. They're just waiting to know that, acknowledge that somebody else has the same story or somebody has a similar story.
Hmm. And this is, I wanted to actually get into that
Oh
in a bit when learning more about you and why you started this because
yes, oh yes,
it seems very personal and it
it
seems as
is,
if something
it
that
is.
you yourself have gone through. So um, we'll definitely take the time to visit and kind of
Oh,
see how
but
you came up with that. Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Okay, Keith.
Yes.
So, author? Yes, no, or
Author slash entrepreneur. And I
there
put
we
the
go.
entrepreneur there just for that very reason that you just mentioned. Like there's so much that I do, but I didn't want to be scatterbrained and say author and this and that and that. So author is my main thing, and
Okay.
that's what I'm aspiring for to do exclusively. But to make ends meet, I'm an entrepreneur. I just do what I got to do to get by.
Okay.
But in terms of my book, so ultimately that book that I came on your show about the first time, it's been doing very well. It's really, when you set out to do a venture something like this, you always have a vision. You have the big vision, which is the Oprah sitting on a couch,
Hmm.
and then the bad vision, which is what if nobody cares? And I feel like mine hit right in the middle, where it was just like it's been well received. And the best story that I like to tell when I say it's been well received is a friend of mine who I know from um, I forget where in the states he's from.
Can I pause? Can I pause you for one quick second since
Sure.
we're getting into what sounds to be a real a story? Um, can someone turn your volume down? I'm hearing the feedback and it's kind of overlapping, so cutting you out. So if someone's listening in the background or something, if you could just turn your volume down a bit, a
Okay.
little
Turn
more.
mine down to one.
Down.
Oh, okay. Or if someone, okay. So if that's the best we're gonna get, we're gonna go with it.
Sounds
But
better.
yes, okay.
Okay.
I don't hear it now. Okay, so Keith, yep. So someone in the
Yeah,
States.
Maryland. That's where he's from. A friend of mine from
Okay.
Maryland. He bought my book, and he just
Mhm.
out of support, he went on Amazon and he put great book, whatever, whatever. And then he inboxed me one day and he said, "Brother, I just put a comment on your Amazon just out of support. I didn't read it." But he said, but after he read it, he had to go back and rewrite his comment because it was so much greater than what he even said that it was on
Mm,
Amazon. and
Mhm.
he felt like it was one of the best books that he's ever read. And he
Wow.
compared it to some of the other self-help books, from the Tony Robbins to the Napoleon Hill. Like the feedback,
Wow.
long story short, has been incredible from those who have actually taken the time to read from cover to cover. So when I say it hit right in the middle, that's what I mean, because ultimately it didn't give the accolades, but the people who actually did take the time out to read it, they gave me the response that I was hoping for.
Nice. Okay, so refresh everyone's memory, or introduce it to maybe some of our new listeners who missed the first show. If you could tell us a bit about the book we're speaking about.
Well, the title is called Fighting Fear and Doing Discipline. And it's ultimately about those two exact topics and how by mastering those two topics, you achieve success. And I always want to qualify what I mean by success. It doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire per se, but it means that you could achieve your goals. And the goal that I use as an example is writing a book, which is what it did for me first and foremost. So by being a person of courage and boldness and fearlessness, backed by being a person with discipline and self-restraint and just having the ability to see things all the way through, if you combine those two characteristics, it will propel you to points of success, and then you can just keep going and keep going and keep going until you ultimately reach at whatever goal that you set out for yourself.
Mhm.
You know, I'm gonna point out a little observation, Keith. And you know what? From the last time we interviewed, I mean, when you spoke about this book before, you were, you had a confidence about you. Now you have a pep in your step confidence, and I'm really liking that. I
Mhm.
guess with this, the second, you know, finishing of your second book,
Hmm.
you have that much more fearlessness, the pun intended, to
And you know why? Because the things that I write in my book, I'm seeing it. So in other words, when you boldly go through something that you like, for me, the courage that I had to have is by exposing myself, whether it's on stage giving a presentation, or whether it's what I wrote in my book to just talk about myself in a transparent way, or just put myself out there. But what I wrote in my book is, once you do that, you reach to heights that you didn't even know. You reach to points and places that you weren't even aware of. So now that it's actually happening and I'm actually in it, you damn right I'm in a zone, because it's manifesting, and I'm able to speak about it from a place of experience, like
experience. Yeah.
specific experience and real life experience, because I'm in it, I'm walking it, I'm living it, and it's manifesting exactly the way that I had said in the book.
And I'm sure the feedback helps. So a story like that. Now, I've also noticed that you have been active out in the public. I've seen you post on your Instagram. I've seen you post um, pictures of events that you've been, it looks like you're speaking at.
Hmm.
Um, has that, can you tell us more about some of those experiences? Have they been mainly in Toronto as well?
They've been exclusively in Toronto,
Oh,
like the
okay.
GTA, But it's funny that we have Elaine on the phone, because I'm not just saying this because she's on the line, but the best experience that I had was the one at her event last week, which I'm sure she'll talk about. So I won't get into it, but ultimately, the reason why I said that is because it's every time that I do another speaking engagement, I try to put myself out there even more. And this last time at her event, I just went all the way in. I literally said I was born in Toronto and this and that, and by the age of 6 this, and by the age of 13 that. I put my whole everything out there, and it felt good. And I didn't just do it frivolously, and I didn't do it, from an egotistical standpoint. I did it because it all ties into my message, and not that the words only tie into my message, but the act of me doing it in and of itself is what it's about. Like, for instance, I said when I was standing on that stage, I said a lot of people are afraid to be a public speaker, but you have something to say that could help somebody else. And then I was telling the people there, I said, by me standing here, I'm overcoming that fear, and I could just tell that the things that I'm saying is resonating with people. So if I was curled up in a ball, hiding somewhere and not being bold to step on the stage, then whatever it is that I'm saying that resonates with whomever I'm saying it to, they wouldn't have gotten that benefit. So, you know what I mean? So every time I speak, I just try to touch the audience in a way that I feel like for instance, if it's students, try to touch them in terms of having a courage when it comes to school and going forward. If it's an older audience, then maybe talk to them about what they need to instill into their children. Or if it's an entrepreneurial type of crowd, just how it is to be bold and disciplined when it comes to your pursuing your dreams and your business. So the message is catered, but the essence is always the same. Bold courage backed by sound discipline will take you to different levels and different points of success.
That's right.
Awesome.
Interesting, because I remember speaking about that, or the last time you were on and we spoke about that, and it seemed like it was Kinetic, myself, and Miss Supernerd who was on that last call interview, uh, where we all, as even as grown adults, have struggled with being that confident, that I guess overcoming the fear to really move towards and go after the goals that we've set for ourselves. And for myself, I know, Keith, you and I, we know each other, and we've talked, and I know you've given me that push with, in certain ways I'm still a little reserved, still holding back a bit.
Come on,
And
say it. Say it. In what way?
no,
Say it.
no, you know what it
Fight,
is. Well,
fight the fear. Fight the fear. Come on, say
fight
it.
my fear. No, but you know what it is? It's like I guess I can't even identify it, because I'm here, I'm speaking. I'm not the greatest speaker, the greatest. You refer to Oprah. And I mean, like, if I could interview like Oprah, like, but one day, and I'm not trying to be Oprah, and I've even seen Oprah talk about not trying to be anybody else. And once you get into your own and you realize and recognize your own gifts, is when you're really come into yours. So, but it's great, we can still be inspired by others. But putting myself, yeah, I'm like, what, 75% out there. I'm kind of getting there, but it's and in a way, I don't know if I hide behind excuses. Okay, we'll just get open with it. Or I'll let you tell them. I'll let you tell them, since it's
Tell
your
what? What?
Oh, I thought you knew. I thought you were speaking about the specific thing you
Oh,
told
yes, yes,
talked to me
yes,
about.
yes, yes. I mean, I'm dying to.
Go ahead.
I'm dying to take a poll.
No. What? What's the poll? How would you pose the poll? What?
I don't know.
Okay, this is going
Twitter.
Twitter, exact. There we go.
Yeah.
No, okay. So Keith has called me out, and he's said, one thing about me not posting my image, like my own, of myself, right? And remember those conversations, or that
Yes, yes,
conversation,
of
right?
course.
And so but it's not really fear based. It's more of, I feel like it's kind of unnecessary. But sometimes I think, like, after speaking to you, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe that is something that is testing me, or that's something I have to overcome.
Let
So,
me tell you, it's 100% necessary, and I believe it's deeply rooted in
Mm.
fear. But that's just me.
oh gosh. But so for others that are maybe need to identify, um, the process of identifying what you're truly afraid of, or what is holding you back based on things that you don't do. So, um, I know you can't diagnose everybody's issue or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, how do you really identify it as a fear, and how do you recognize it as a fear, and not just, in my case, saying, you know what, I just don't think it's necessary to post an image of myself necessarily. I don't really see how it can enhance a radio show. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know if that's like the
Well,
reason I tell myself, or an excuse,
I'm
or
gonna interject on that because I've known you quite a while and we've done quite a bit of shows together.
yeah, yes, we
So I think
have.
I can say that. Let's safe to say that I'm a little bit of a 30 on KRC in
Oh
that
Lord.
mannerism.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? There is it is a fear, but it's not a fear that's holding you back. It
Mm,
is a more of, I'm gonna identify what I've identified it, because I've actually looked at that whole spectrum of KRC, and
oh
what it
Lord.
really comes down to is that, you know what?
Analyze,
You
care.
understand, because you understand branding, you understand marketing. You want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure before you put out the right image,
Mm-hmm.
you are correct. You're put together correctly the way you want to. You don't want to present a wrong image per se. You want to brand a right image. So when you are ready, when you're set in the way you want to be, set up the way you want to be, then you're going to present that image to the rest of the world. And that's what I've gathered just by looking at it and being, being around and seeing that side of you.
Womp womp
You're
womp.
no, you have a point, but then
Womp
it's
womp.
no, and I could identify. Well, okay, and it's not so much about me. Like, and so yes, good observation because I see, and I was actually speaking to my sister earlier about other things that I've had, good ideas about, but haven't done them, and it's me being a perfectionist and wanting everything to be exactly as I envision it in my head. So yes, I think there's a bit of that to it. But with others now, Keith, like let's say, how do you, I guess what I took from what you were saying is getting out there when you were at Elaine's event and just putting it all out there almost, and so is that the best way you think to fight fear is just to whatever you're kind of holding back with and just push yourself, and if so, how do you suggest someone does it? I mean, I know, like, if you've ever gone to the cliffs, like what's his name, what's it called again, Rick's Cafe or something, and you see these people jumping, and it's like you can stand there and plan and agonize over it and think, okay, maybe I should, but the only way you're really going to jump is just to jump, right? And so that's the only way you're actually going to get over it and do it, is just to do it. But um, putting, facing your real fears, like things that are going to affect your future and your life and your dreams, like how do you suggest people do that? I mean, and because you tell us to do that. So what's one way that we can actually start?
Well, you can start by picking up Fighting
The book.
Fear and Doing
Yeah.
Discipline, available now on Amazon.com. Inside, we break down fear, what it is,
Mm,
why it is, and how
Giveaway.
to identify ways in which to overcome it. That's step one.
okay.
No, but all jokes aside, what you said
What is
is
that?
is one way. You know what I'm saying? But even before you
Hello?
get in, hello,
Hello?
somebody got a
Yes,
phone
we're
call
here. We're
going?
here.
Hi. Uh-oh.
Oh.
I think it's a different. Okay.
We good?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, go. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
No, I was saying what you mentioned as far as just taking that leap of faith, that jump off of that cliff is one way in which to
Mhm,
deal with the fear. But another thing that you mentioned is how do you identify the fear? Fear is an emotion. So at the end of the day,
mhm,
when you have that emotional feeling of the fear, you could identify it because your heart rate increases, you get the butterflies in your stomach. There's so many physical effects at fear. So it's easy to recognize when you're afraid because there's a physical manifestation of it. You know what I'm saying?
mhm, mhm,
It's hard to remain calm in a fearful situation, at least at first. So you could
mhm.
like for you, for instance, just to, no, let me not. Let me stop. Let me stop. But yeah,
Oh no,
Oh
Keith,
Lord.
sorry, I'm gonna interject there. You fit right into this show because when shout out to Miss Super Nerd,
Yes.
exactly what we we all
Just
to do
jump
to
on
scare
can.
we try to
Just
pull that fear out of her.
no, but I think um well, that, I guess that is the way. I mean, and this is what I was trying to get from you as well. It's how do you identify it as a fear versus, or after you've told yourself time and time again the other reasons why, it's not necessary, it's inappropriate, it's, and we've told ourselves these lies long enough where we believe it, and so we don't see it as a fear, we just we see it for what we've told ourselves it is. So I'm sure
Good
for
point.
other people out there, there are a lot of things that they've wanted to do and um, haven't. And for me, it's not necessarily that I want to put my image up, and I mean, you're right in that way, is what I want to do. It should be proper, and my whole thing with social media has always been how much of my personal life and my, and what I'm doing online and where to find that balance. So it's not so much, I want it. Well, yeah, I do want things to look good, but it's not as if, I feel like it has to be a photo shoot, the highest quality camera and photographer and all that good stuff, although that would be nice. But I know you can put up, I think how you connect with people is just being yourself and real, and people who share their very real moments and experiences are people that people connect with very easily. So I get that as well, but it's more of what's appropriate, I guess, for me. And then it's consistency, because putting one thing up, I always wonder, like, people are going to want more and more, and I'm just not the photo. Like, when I'm away, I always laugh because people, when I'm away, I'm always taking pictures of the scenery and what I'm seeing and what's around me. And I always laugh and say, when I, get home and I scroll through my photos, I'm like, people wouldn't even believe that I was there, because you never, like, I hardly have a picture of myself in the scene. You know what I mean? So it's
Believe it or not, that's exactly me as well.
Mhm.
But it's just about capturing the moment experiences, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with you, I think you deliberately run from the camera,
If I'm not ready, yeah.
But
But
you know what? Just speaking of fear, I just want to interject by saying there's one of the most fearless people that I know that we have on this line today.
I'm trying to unmute. So unmute yourself, please, Ms. Elaine. If you can
She,
see that microphone, just click on your microphone
yeah.
so she can get back into the
she,
conversation.
she. I posted something the other day, and I said, one of the most courageous, fearless women I know. And can I just give a quick little anecdote about how I even know this woman?
Please.
So back in high school, which you and I know each other from high school, she was one of the mentors that took us on a bus trip to Atlanta to learn who we are and learn. I mean, as a people, as far as roots and culture and identity. Even though it was in America, it was still the roots of enslaved people come from wherever and brought to wherever. So so she was the person that was leading this group, or one of the people. And then fast forward 20 years later, or however many years later, I bumped into her and I didn't really know where I knew her from. And then we finally reconnected. And the same spirit that I remember from her back in those days is what I recognize in her to this very day. And that
Mhm.
is that courage and that boldness. So not everybody in this world has an issue with fear. Some people's issues are other things. So, it's something that you have to recognize first if it's something that you have to deal with, and then you can figure out how to deal with it. But some people, they're just naturally bold, courageous, and just they have no fear. You heard her today when she's like, I could go on camera, I could go on.
Mhm. I said she's ready. She said,
She's
I've
ready
been
for
ready
been
for
ready.
the video light. No, and I love that. But so Elaine, if you could just hover over your mic, the image of the microphone, and unmute your mic so you can join the conversation.
If
I
she's
hope
there,
she's
she
hearing
might have
us.
just stepped away from the mic for a
I don't know if
second.
she was right, but I'm the one who hit
Yeah.
mute just when that other call seemed to be cut. There we go.
That's
Oh no, that's the camera. We need the mic.
okay.
So she's hearing us okay. Yeah, just hit the
The
microphone.
one on the right one, the right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but
What's
and
up?
Keith,
What's
I
up?
know
Yeah.
um like you said, for some people it's not so much the fear side of things, it's more the discipline. I think
Exactly.
that's the other side.
And I'm
So
glad you mentioned that because that's the one thing everybody just seems to be. When I wrote this thing, I just wrote it out of my pure experience and my pure inspiration. But I didn't realize there's a thing going on with fear. Everybody's just big on this fear. Like everybody can relate to it, gravitate towards it. And when I speak about it, there's a certain level of interest. But I always make sure, but and say the real battle is the discipline because you could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm gonna jump out the window. I'm gonna just do it. But if you don't have the discipline to do things the right, like for instance, what you said about your picture, you could have the courage to say, I'm gonna put a picture out there. But if you don't have the discipline to make sure it's done the right way, taken
mhm,
with the right photographer, presenting the right imagery that you want, presenting the right branding that you want, then
mhm,
ultimately you're just doing yourself a disservice because you could put something out there that's doing worse than not
mhm,
putting something out there at all. So courage and fearlessness is one thing, but
mhm,
without the discipline to kind of make sure that you do it responsibly, whatever that thing is, then you could be backfiring and doing yourself a disservice more than any good.
Hmm. And for the record, I do have a couple of images of myself on my Instagram. If you
I'm
take the
checking
time,
right
If
now.
you
Checking. I'm
dig,
if you
checking.
take the time
if
to
you
dig a little
dig, yeah.
Was it
and
back
pick
in
me out in the
2012?
lineup.
Uh,
No, calm down. And then go through, yeah, figure you could play like, but notice it's a group pick. It's a couple of group picks. But I thought they were appropriate at the time to share because it was a great moment and yeah, so anyway, so don't think I'm really like hiding or all that vain. Um but yeah, no, I agree with you on that too, Keith, because I've seen some things that made me question how these people figure they can put it up there. Like I understand being open and transparent and all that stuff, but there's a little too much information sometimes. But Elaine, I'm dying to have Elaine join the conversation. I don't know why her mic won't unmute because I have some questions for her and I'm actually
she's on
loving
the
her
left.
image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love her image
You,
that
you
she
got
has up there too. So, um,
Lane.
wanted to.
I don't know if Lane could hear, but it's the one. It's the on the three pillars. The one on the left hand side. You have to press that one. Okay. Or nope, that's the right hand side. You need the one on the left hand side. The left.
Elaine is
The
trying.
left, not the
No,
right. The left. The mic. The mic.
Is
not
she
the.
getting her hair
So
done?
maybe you can have. Yeah,
Is she
we can
getting her
see
hair
your hair
done?
I
getting
see you
done.
doing your hair.
Oh
No,
my
So you
god.
need the one on the left hand side, not the right hand side. The mute button.
The true
Maybe
ghetto
the person doing your hair
story.
can help you.
Real ghetto story.
Joe Kelly. When she's looking all cute though, she's like, "Yes, I'm getting my hair did." But we can't hear you, Elaine. We need to hear you. We need you in the conversation. Come on, this is. She's all cute with it too. Like,
She's
no, we
Elaine.
can't hear you, Elaine. Oh, there, it's like
You
sign
gotta
language
unmute
now.
your mic. Have the person helping you unmute the mic
Okay, hold on a
on the
second.
left hand side. Yeah,
Okay,
unmute the
I've
mic.
just yeah. Okay, we'll get there because we want to. I want to bring her in, especially when you referenced
Yeah.
her event that happened just this past weekend. I think that would be great. But until we can, tell us about your new project, which is totally different. It has nothing. It's nothing like fighting fear and doing discipline. So, your latest project. Can you tell us a bit about that?
It's called Rule 72, and the tagline is "The victims, the voyeurs, and the verdict." And it's a thriller. It's a novel. You know, it's fictional and it's a thriller. And ultimately, I'm not necessarily going to get into it too tough, but
Hmm.
the one thing I will say is that it's one of those stories that takes you on twists and turns until you figure out who or what, and all these different things. And the second thing I'll mention is the fact that in all my writings, this one included, as much as it's a thriller and people think all kind of crazy stuff, there's a real serious message in it, and that's the core essence of. Because when I was first writing it, I said to myself, I don't know if I could come out as a writer of a self-help book than do a mystery thriller. People are gonna think I'm all over the place, and I just felt for a minute maybe I should use like a fictitious name to say, what do they call it, a pseudonym or whatever, as far as an author's name. But I decided to use my real name because there is some consistency. Because at the end of the day, as much as it's a story, much as it's a different genre, the essence is the same. There's a message in all my writing of things that will ultimately help you grow, become better, be more aware. It's just a nugget in the essence of anything that I write. That's just my genre. Just putting nuggets packaged up in different wrappers.
Hmm. So I know you said you're not going to get real deep into it, but one interesting thing I noticed is how you're rolling it out. So can you tell us a little bit about that approach and why you decided
Absolutely.
to do
Well,
it that
the
way?
the approach I learned, which was called serialization. So it's ultimately that you release chapter by chapter or chapters at a
Hmm.
time, and you just serialize the release. So every week at 7:30 p.m. I drop a new chapter. Sometimes I drop two or maybe even three, but every week I drop something. And ultimately, it's my rough manuscript that I'm releasing. This is not the final draft, but it's an opportunity for people to just become aware of the book, and people to give me feedback, and also just to kind of put it out there and just see what the response is like. So, and then it's good for marketing as well, because every week I have something to promote. So this is also good
Mm.
for that reason as well. You know, but
Now, how? Oh,
go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was going to ask you. I was going to segue and say, well, how do we become a part of that audience or that receiving audience?
Well, in my bio in my Instagram, real.keithhill, it's a direct link to where you could become a part of that audience. It's on Wattpad, and Wattpad has been described as the YouTube and the Facebook for writers. So it's just a whole ecosystem of writers and different books and different stories. So it's on that platform that I put it, but it's directly found in the bio of my link. I mean, the link is in my bio
Mhm.
on my Instagram page.
That takes you
Okay, and your
to
Instagram pages for the audience. Yeah.
Real.Keith Hill. That's real, like keep it, and dot Keith Hill.
now. How has the response been to how you're rolling it out? In, I mean, nowadays most people want to sit and watch a whole series back to back on like one day. You know what I mean? Like people can't even stand watching TV shows like once a week. So how do you deal with? Do you have people saying, "Can you just roll out the whole thing already? Because I'm ready for the next chapter," or has that enhanced it for some people, or I don't know, or does it not seem to be an issue?
Well, the good thing is that Wattpad, again, that's the name of the website, wattpad.com, is known for
Uh-huh.
this. Like, I'm not inventing nothing
Hello?
here.
Hey, Elaine. Yay,
Okay.
you're back.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I felt like you're
It's
trapped in
called
that boxer.
technology, Bredgins, and I'm working with it.
Okay. Hold on. We're going to get to you.
Yes.
There's
So I
so
gotta,
much that we
I,
wanted.
oh my goodness.
Hold on. Let's just let Keith finish his thoughts. What were you
Okay.
saying?
Oh, sorry, Keith.
No, it's
Sorry.
all good, Elaine.
No,
I'm
no,
glad you're
no.
here,
You
man.
said you didn't. Oh, it's live.
So a long distance call was coming in, and I'm trying to, yeah,
Okay.
Okay. No, it's all good. I didn't want to interrupt your call, so I just thought I'd mute. So if it
yeah,
happens again, you know how it works.
yeah,
So yeah.
yes.
So you were
Um,
saying, Keith, you didn't necessarily invent
yeah, that's what
this.
people do on Wattpad. And so people that are on it for the most part expect it, but the people who are new to it that are just on it to support me, those are the people that like, come on already, just drop the damn book, you know, or they want to have more chapters or so. But it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
mind it. I don't mind it. It's
Mm.
serving its purpose, that's for sure. And one thing I'll say about the story, which
Mhm,
is the most fun part of writing it,
mhm.
is that it's based in the year 2052. So it's based in the
Oh.
future.
Mhm.
So I did my best to research what that time would look like. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I ain't got no flying cars because I didn't really go overboard. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I did try to do some realistic technology that ultimately that was on the verge of becoming real, and
Mhm.
be consistent throughout the story and have that kind of a theme in it. So that was the most fun part of writing it. So that much I could say, that it's based in the future, and there's a lot of different technology and different things of that nature that's consistent throughout.
So you're really taking this writing thing to heart. Like this is Keith Hill now. That you're doing this not as a a release, but as a full time dream. You're living out your dream now. Is that what's happening here?
But
You're
that's exactly what is happening.
you're
And I was gonna save this, but you know what? I'll just say right now, I I actually wrote a TV show, and we're starting shooting in April, and that's just a natural evolution as far as I'm concerned. But I'm just saying that to say I'm more than taking it serious. I'm chasing it. I'm chasing it. I'm going
nice,
after it.
nice.
And I also
You
got
actually kind of read my mind. I was gonna say, is this going to become a book? Is this something that we could look forward to? I mean, not a book, a TV
A
series
movie
or a
or
movie. Is this the next Tyler Perry happening in the version of Keith Hill?
well, I yes,
There's McMillan.
he's
yes.
like, yes, actually.
I believe it and I receive it.
There
Yes.
we go.
That's
But
beautiful.
the story that I'm writing as far as TV show, it's not the Rule 72. It's an entirely different story, and it's a
Mhm.
comedy. So I went from self help to thriller to
Wow.
comedy. So
You all over.
you gotta like something. I'm putting everything out there.
Oh, dirty.
Something got to resonate. So
So
yes,
do
to
you have
answer your question,
producers?
huh?
Do you have producers? You're writing, or is it something that's going to be go? Is it you have producers? Do you have people interested in it?
I
Like,
I have the main cast, which I'm a part of. I have the producers and I have the director, and we just confirmed the location. And yeah, it's a go. We're starting in April, end of May. I mean, end of April, early May, to start shooting it. But
Wow, power move.
it's a go. It's
Okay,
already written. So
you
that's
just said the main cast, which you're a part of, so you are actually acting in this.
yeah, man. You know, most
No,
of
oh, all right, all right.
yeah, man.
Okay, talk about
Oh,
stepping forward,
okay.
stepping into it.
Listen,
Okay.
and
All right.
let me tell you this,
Uh-huh.
everything, no matter what happens with the story, with the TV show, with the whatever else, it comes back to fighting fear
Mm,
and doing discipline. Because I ain't no actor, I'm no speaker, I'm no this, I'm no that, but I'm like, in this day and age, and this goes back to you in your picture. I believe in my heart of hearts that you have to, if you want to have any level of success, any level of notoriety, any level of business recognition, you have to put yourself out there, because that's what these kids are doing, that's what everybody else is doing, and that's what you're competing with. So like I always, just a quick anecdote. So coming from the music business, one thing I've always learned is that when they realized in the music business long time ago that everybody wants to be a pop artist. And what does pop mean? It means a popular artist. So when they realized that that's just the goal, to be popular, not necessarily good or great or anything, just popular. And how do you become popular? Everybody knows you. Then how do you everybody knows you? Everybody's heard your song. So then when they backed it all the way down, to become a pop artist, you just have to make everybody hear your song, and then they'll naturally gravitate towards it because they know it. I believe the same is true when it comes to chasing these business dreams or any other dream. You have to put yourself out there, and as long as you become more visible and notable, then you become more popular, and that's ultimately the goal, to reach to certain levels of notoriety and success. So that's my theory. So I'm putting myself out there as much as I can in as many places that I can.
mm. Okay. Now you
All
mentioned something
right.
there. I want to dig a little into your history, but I don't know if we're going to have time in this show, but we'll get to it. You also mentioned speaking at Elaine's event. So, Elaine, can you tell us about the event that you recently hosted? Um, and then, yeah, because that
Okay.
was this
So
past Saturday, I believe, right?
yeah, event was on Saturday. So for many years, over 20 odd years,
Mhm,
I've been holding. It's been in my head. No, I got it on paper. It's ghetto stories.
mhm,
And as I shared with you, ghetto means getting higher education to teach others. And basically, it's coming from me as in a person who's gone through, grew up in what most of people would refer to as the ghetto.
mhm,
And I've overcome some odds. I gave birth on my 16th birthday to my first child,
mm,
and the journey of going from getting through all that, then more children, and then no high school education. So I went and got that.
mhm.
And then at age 34, I got my high school diploma.
Well,
What?
Nice.
congratulations. What?
Thank you very much. And age 41, I got my college diploma. But through
Nice.
all of this, I've been a youth worker before they gave it a name. I've been community before I understood what it was.
Mm,
Uh, I came from what most people refer to as a privileged background. I had a mother and father. We had a house. We had a car.
mhm.
Over the bridge was one of the most predominant housing communities. And when we would go over there and come back home, we would get beaten. And my father would always be referred to, Lord, them the dirty people there.
Mhm.
Lord, them the dirty people. And there was never anything good. And I didn't understand what the concept was, why they would refer to, and why they would speak about, and why people would think people are like that or whatever they thought. And I would hear the conversations around. And then fast forward years later, my mom, myself, and two of my siblings, we ended up in housing.
Mm,
And that's where I started to understand. And when we moved in, a lot of the family members didn't come around.
mhm.
And when they did come around, they were watching their car. Lad, me car safe around here, so? You sure say? And it was always, everything I heard and knew of was always negative.
Mm,
And me, myself, even when I got married at 22, and even when I was about to marry my husband, his mother said, Lord, she too common.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
everything that surrounded that for me was always dirt, referred back to those words that always rung out in my head.
Mhm,
And we were always seen as second class citizens.
mhm,
So my mission,
Or third even.
yeah,
mhm.
yeah, third, like, no, or none, not even considered.
I was about to
Yeah,
say, but
gutter. Come
Straight.
from the gutter. Yeah.
Yeah, straight. When you come from the gutter, you come from there, you're no good.
Mhm,
A lot of the women around are single women with multiple baby daddies.
mm.
So it's like that seems to be the stigma that sticks. As soon as the young girls pass a
But
certain
this,
age and they start looking a certain way, Lord, the one they soon can breed.
mm,
And this is what happened. And sometimes it does happen, and it's because they wash their dirty mouth on people's children and they don't know no better. So these are the things that happen, and I kept sitting and saying, I have to do something. And like I said, I've been on the streets of Toronto since I was like 12, 13. I'm that kid whose ass used to get beaten because I couldn't stand the foolishness. So I'm that one. I open my mouth because from me you say something, I have something to say. And my
mhm,
father used to always have something to say, and I used to tell him, if you're a man, if you were a man, these things wouldn't happen. If you're a man about your house, then
ooh,
things wouldn't happen,
wow.
right? And I was used to tell my mother, say, she too feisted. Find some place, put her. And I went through this, and even growing up in the community and doing the community work, I couldn't take the fluff that I would see. Because
Mhm,
even when I went on that trip with Keith, you know what I mean? There's a young lady, me and her kick off on the bus. And her comment was, um, because I gravitated to all the young people. They gravitated to me because I didn't have time for the fluff. I just tell them, yo, the idiot things they're going on with, and this is what it is.
mhm,
And they didn't want to hear that because they wanted it to be all nice. They were telling these children we're going. They didn't know what really they were going. There were a few of them in the group. Keith was one of them who got it, and a few of them didn't. Where were they going? They were going to Atlanta, Georgia. What are you going to go do? You're gonna see a few like a black something. That's it. Half of them didn't know what they were going to see. If you see the clothes that they brought, some of them brought plastic outfits from dance because it was 90s, right? Because the real conversation wasn't had,
yes.
right? So that's what when people visualize, that's what they see and know, right? So the conversation for me right now is to change the concept and to change those minds
Mhm,
and to put them in a place where they can use this narrative that they call the ghetto and change the way people perceive them
mhm.
and change the way people think about who we are and what we're supposed to look like and what we're supposed to do and where we're supposed to be in this world.
So let me ask you there, at what point you said that's when you decided to change the image
Yeah.
and project? At what point? When you were still in going through
Oh,
it, or
oh
when you
yes,
had,
both.
okay.
When I was going through it, because going through it, I was privileged to sit. So like Keith said, I can't take foolishness.
Hmm.
So when I would go into places, and it cost me big time because sometimes I'd have to. My mouth was not something I learned how to. Well, now at this age and stage, I learned how to not say certain things or say it in a more effective way. Let's use that
Yes,
language,
there we
right?
go.
So yeah, going through it, and when I saw what was happening, I said to myself, I have a decision to make here. Either I continue to be one of the stereotypes that they, or I have to make some real changes to bring forth some real change to myself. And I know that I can't do this by myself,
Hmm.
right? So I had to bring a community with me. And it started, one of the things I started a dance group. I love to
Okay.
dance. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love
Okay.
to dance. But in the dancing, and I brought the kids out, people thought I was gonna be teaching them how to wind up themselves. And no, it wasn't like that.
Hmm.
It was more cultural. I brought in African dancing. We learned soca, calypso style, Jamaican style, pantomime style of stuff. And that's what I taught them. I taught them about Miss Lou. I taught them about all the African history people I could bring in that they could relate to. And that's what I did with the dance group. So when people heard the dance group, they thought they were just coming to dance,
Hmm.
right? So I changed it. And the name that I called them was Young Ragamuffins.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So people were coming to see young ragamuffin. When you hear ragamuffin, you come look for something ratchet,
Hmm.
right? We didn't have that word back in those days,
No, but that, yeah.
but you know what I mean, so,
Hmm.
right? So that was the concept. So I started using it now. So people, so all of a sudden now, Elaine had the dance group, and the kids were fascinated by the things they were learning. I introduced them to black painting, black artists. We would go all over the city of Toronto wherever there was an event. I introduced them to Black History Month. Those are the things that we, before it had a month, when we used to be on the harbor front.
Hmm.
So that's where the conversation started coming in. That's where the changes were made, because I said I made them within myself. So here's a community now that needed some change.
And at
And I
that
was,
time, did
yes,
you have a lot of support, or did you feel like
no,
you were pushing?
yeah,
Okay.
I was pushing buttons. People couldn't support. They didn't understand what they were supporting.
Mhm.
Because I come from a household where white Jesus is on the wall.
Mm.
So how could I tell my mom, some blackness? And my brother would say, stop teaching pitney them black something there. But black
Wow.
something where you teach a pitney them, Back in the day,
Mm.
Malcolm X, I want to go, and I said, oh my God, you're missing the picture. But that was I fought. Every organization that I went into, it was a fight.
Mhm.
It was a fight because they weren't ready for this. They were okay with giving us programs. They were okay with throwing us a little money to do
Mm.
things, but they weren't understanding of the concept. Because in order to change, you have to change. Things have to change from the inside out. You can fix the foundation outside all you want, right? But at some point, if the inside isn't fixed, you're gonna have to fix it again, and you're gonna
So,
keep fixing.
so how, then what was your motivation to keep going? I know you mentioned you had children, so was it more of a
Oh,
personal
but yeah,
or?
it was personal. I now have 4 children and 3 grandchildren. I became
Mm.
a grandmother at 36.
Wow.
So
Okay.
the dynamics had to change. I left one housing community to go to a next. I left
Mhm.
Cataraqui to go to Chesterlee. So it was here I am again in another housing community, a different place.
Mhm.
Well, dynamics very much the same.
Mhm.
So it
So
Mhm.
was
we.
time to, yes,
Oh, go on, go on.
you were gonna say?
Well, I know I was gonna say, okay, so we've learned a little bit about the history of you
Yes,
personally.
yes.
Now, segue into the ghettos,
Movement.
the movement. What is
The
the
move.
movement? Who's involved with the movement? What is ghetto stories? And how do they get involved?
Okay, so Ghetto Stories is of people sharing their stories in an authentic, able to share their stories in an authentic way, with the understanding that it's going to change some lives.
Okay, so
So I'm going in.
sorry, I'm gonna cut you right there. And when you say
Yes.
share your stories in an authentic way, how is it? Through writing, through songs, through dance, through
Well, right
speaking
now it's through
engagements? Yeah.
speaking,
Okay.
and I will be doing some writing. I have some young people who are working on that. So we'll be writing the fine. Actually, I'm part of another group that Soulful Image, and they have a magazine. So we have a 2-page spread in the magazine to
Mm.
write
Okay.
about the ghetto stories. So that's the beginning where I'm
Every
starting.
issue
What
for each
every
issue.
issue that they
Okay,
produce,
nice.
we
Mhm.
have a 2-page. Ghetto Stories has a 2-page spread in it to do a story on a male and a female from a community.
Mhm.
So they can contact me through elaine.ghettostories@gmail and tell me their stories. That I meet them in person. I'm in. The next will be to do some videoing so that they can sit down, interview style, Oprah, my girl, style,
Mhm.
and tell me their story. Um, in about 3 months or so, 3 months from now, I will have a YouTube channel.
Okay,
I'm
nice.
working on that where it will be the Ghetto Stories. And in 2 weeks, I have a radio station, internet radio, that I'll be doing Ghetto Stories.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, where
So
people
what?
come on and speak to their story. All the people who've come from these places, come
Mhm.
out and share your stories. What got you out,
Mhm.
and and what can folks hearing you? What can they learn from you?
So the event that you recently
So,
hosted,
oh,
that
Yes,
Keith was at.
that
So,
G.H.E.T.T was people coming out and sharing their stories.
okay.
People who came from backgrounds that were willing and open to share their stories. There was a story of a young lady who, for many years was being molested in the community.
Mhm.
Um, Black people don't talk about those things, right? It was hidden for a long time. So she wanted a platform to speak about those things and to get help. And she's a part of the Ghetto Stories, and she will be creating a foundation of her own to have young people come out and speak to these things, who
Mhm.
these things have affected. That's the
so
platform.
is the
Yes.
initiative and the platform, is it um is it a self-help? Is it a just a outlet to, to, like you said, the main objective is to change the ideas or the stereotypes of what ghetto is.
Is
But
yes.
now is part of that initiative to, for like self-help, self-esteem for younger people? Is it for
Yeah,
older people?
yes.
Like,
It's to be honest with you, I'm still working on the audience because
Mhm.
I think that the conversations need to be had in all age groups and all levels, right? Because the young need to hear from the older,
Mhm.
the older need to speak to the young, but they also need to be in a place where they can receive the information that they're hearing. Because we have a lot of that going on in our communities. We're not communicating enough. And to be honest with you, I'm still working on what the delivery is going to be for everyone,
Mhm.
because I can't reach everyone. But it is to work on the self-esteem. It is to work on changing the narratives that we know of what the ghetto is supposed to look like, or what we're supposed to be coming from those places. So it is self-esteem, because I know what it did with mine. It played havoc on my self-esteem for years, right?
And that's so are you reaching the people that are still in the ghettos, or and that who you're targeting to connect with, or is it more people outside and
I'm,
how
I'm,
they
I'm,
look?
I think it's both. Right
Mhm.
now, it's both for me, because for me, ghetto isn't a color,
Mhm.
right? Just like poverty. Poverty does no color. Ghetto isn't a color. It's a state of mind,
Yes.
right? So I'm trying to get people to work, and ghetto is not only black people, because honestly, to tell you, there are more white people living in the ghetto than there are blacks,
Mhm.
right? But because what we perceive and what has been shown to us, we seem to be the one owning it more.
so you're saying
So
ghetto is a mentality,
it is a mentality. It's not a
not a
place.
state of, it's a
No.
mentality, state of mind, not a place.
Yeah, yes. Because if you understand, if you ghetto and real ghettos, you can't exist. A ghetto cannot exist in a foreign country
Right. It's
because we can
project.
get help.
Right.
So if it's a place to live, there's shelters,
Mhm.
right? Money, there's social assistance, food banks, social housing. There's ways to help those things. Real ghettos is tomorrow morning you get up, you don't even know where food is coming from,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So it's a mentality.
So
So
you're
the
saying, yeah.
concept, the conversation for me is to have people get into their heads as to why do we own that word, and why when we hear it, it always have to be associated with something negative, and
Mhm.
then we turn it around and we associate it with with government housing. We're
So it's
always
really
just
funny that. Sorry,
yes.
go on. No, no, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, no, no. You go ahead.
Yeah, it's really funny because I actually, ironically, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, um, about exactly that. About there is no real ghettos in Toronto.
Mhm.
We have projects.
Mhm.
We don't have
Mm-hmm.
ghettos.
Yes.
Ghetto, like, what you find in third world countries, because you know what, because we can identify with, Jamaica or whatever West
Y-
Indian islands, but there are
Yes.
other ghettos inside, like, in the Asian islands, or
Yes.
like Taiwan, or like those are
Yes.
real ghettos where
Yes.
people are living way below the poverty line, and as you said, they don't have they don't have shoes on their feet, or they don't have
Mm?
any form of assistance to,
Right.
for it. So it's a, and that's exactly what we're saying. We don't have ghettos. We have marginalization, and our
Yes.
right, and our marginalization is what prevents us from seeing outside, because this is our environment. Like, what,
Yes.
those real ghettos are not our reality. So what we think is ghetto is not really ghetto, but because we've been taught,
Yes.
through song, whether, like, exploitation movies, or what was going
Mm?
on, because there are some real ghettos in the States,
Yes,
right?
they are. I've passed through quite a few of them. My family lived in Harlem for a while.
Yeah,
You know what I
Baltimore,
mean?
and yeah, yeah.
I spent 2 years up in Harlem,
Hmm.
so I kind of understand and see. That's why when I hear them talking ghetto over here, I laugh
Mhm.
because I don't see it to the point where I see, yes, you know poverty in a sense of economics, and then it would be a double that, and then sometimes you wonder because when you see some of the cars parked up in our parking lots, and I saw them, we're supposed to be, the ghetto. Yet
Exactly.
Benz is pulling in,
Yeah.
BM is pulling in, and there's a time where I lived up in Chester, one guy had a Hummer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I said, good credit, I get it. But there's that moment where these are the things that we're seeing. So if we're supposed to be this, so why this?
Right.
You
And
understand?
I find even, and I've had that similar conversations of, ghetto, and I guess in the past, we've compared to say, the stories that we heard, like rap and other ways that we heard stories from the
Yes.
state, perhaps. We and then hearing the Toronto-based rappers trying to come with it, and we're like, you know, no one really had it that bad. Like, you know what I
Hmm,
mean? And
hmm,
it's
hmm.
almost like, but it was this desire. And don't get me wrong, like there was some things happening, and there were true life stories that people could talk about that were not positive, were not great experiences.
Hmm.
But it was almost as if people, in some cases, um, br- identified with it to get a sense of strength, hardness,
Yes. Yes.
and so even though, I mean, the way most of the housing projects are situated in Toronto, you're surrounded by homes owned, by
Yes.
two-parent
Hey,
Yeah.
families,
can
and
I
so
jump in for one sec, kid?
yes,
Yeah, of
please go
course you
Sorry,
ahead.
can.
I just a quick story that just jumped in my head.
Mm,
I lived in New York in the hood for like
mhm,
over 10 years, almost 16 years between coming back and forth to Westchester, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Flatbush, and even
mm,
Crown Heights at a certain point. So I've lived in those parts for a long time. And I have a friend there, Rock, and he's born and raised in Brooklyn, and he came to Canada a few times, Caravana, whatever. And he said to me, "Man, you're lucky you got Canada, Keith, to come home to." And this is when I was in New York, and I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not coming here." And he said, "No, but you're lucky you have it. If you want."
mm,
I'm like, "But I'm not. I'm not coming back here." So it doesn't even make sense that you even say that because I'm here. Like now that I'm here, you know what I'm saying? I recognize the difference because when you're in those real ghettos,
mhm,
in that respect, it's you wish you have what we have here that we call ghetto.
mhm,
To put it
You
in
know,
perspective.
and exactly what, just to compliment exactly what Keith had said is that, it's every time I had friends come over from the States, I used to have a sense of pride that I don't necessarily have it at that much anymore. But it was when they used to come up for the caravan, or they used to just come over, they'd always say, you know what? Oh, your projects are so clean.
mhm,
Hmm.
Or,
Oh yeah.
or your streets are, Toronto is clean.
That's clean. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I used to have a sense of pride. I used to love that until, what's his name? David. What was Mike Harris? Sorry.
mm.
Privatized the garbage pickup,
You mean
and
the
then
butcher?
we started turning into, we started turning, it became dirty. It became a business, and then we started
Yeah.
getting a lot of dirt. But that was back in, back in
Yeah.
up to the early, like, to early 2000s, right
Yes.
before Mike Harris did that. They
Yes.
used to say, "Man, your projects are clean." Like, yo, like, you know what? Do y'all know what you got up here? What's in the water up here? Your lady's so pretty.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
On
Even
the
crackheads look good.
sorry, on the flip side, I had a cousin come from Jamaica, and he's like, he came here and he said, "Yo, where's Toronto's ghetto?" So I took him. I literally one night we just went to Region, Finch, and then he was like, "There ain't no ghettos here." Then we got to Jungle. Why did
Yeah.
somebody get bodied that same night in
Ooh,
Jungle? You know what I'm
oh,
Right.
saying? So he was just like, I guess this is the real hood because the reality is that it could look as pretty as it looks, but it's still grimy as any dirty and
Right.
because it comes down to what Elaine's saying is that it's a mentality. So
Reality. Yeah.
like I'll give you a better example. I live in Brampton, and when I came back from New York, and they told me that this area in Brampton is called Fletcher's Ghetto, and I was like, "Where's this Fletcher a ghetto in Brampton?" If you see
mm,
how pretty
mm,
this housing community is,
wow,
and its real name is Fletcher's Meadow. So then,
oh,
but they said that people
wow.
from the city, from different parts of the city moved to Brampton, and then they it became the hood.
They
But
want to
what
harden
it
it, yeah.
but
Mhm,
it's the look of it is nothing, is no destitution in sight. I mean,
mhm,
pretty lawns, brand new houses, brand new community, but the mentality is what ghettoized it, if you could use, if I could say that word, because
Mm.
oftentimes we glorify as a people the
Hmm.
ghetto mentality because, like you said, it gives you a
Sense
certain
of
level of
strength, yeah.
bravado. Like, yo, I'm from the hood, yo, I'm from this, I'm
Right.
from that,
Yeah.
and
All
Yeah.
the
that's why,
time.
and that's why I
All the
love how she
time.
flipped. That's how I like how she flipped the name because it draws that attraction to be like, oh, the ghetto stories from the hood. Yeah,
Hmm.
stories from the hood of
Can I
people
tell
making it
you,
out of the hood.
when
Mm.
I started to speak about the ghetto stories, right? And I've been like I said in community for over 30 years, and I always go back to my mentors, and have the right conversation. And one particular person, respect him to the max. And we're there talking, and I said to him, I want to talk to you about this, and this came to my mind, like I've had it in my head, but I want to get it out. And he said, "No, man, you can't use that the word."
Mm.
I said, "What did you say?" He said, "No, man, find another word, man. Me no want that me no like that word there." I
Mhm.
said, "Why? What's wrong with it?" Right? Nobody now gonna listen to you, man. That you go sound foolish. I said,
Mm.
"Really? Honestly, that's how you feel as an elder who's been in the community, and you guys have used that word and have gotten what you want." Because when you go to these places and you tell them how destitute our ghettos are, you guys get the money.
Hmm.
Because that's what you tell them. We're marginalized.
Mhm.
First, we were at risk. Then we
Yeah.
became marginalized. Then we became disenfranchised. I'm waiting
Mhm.
for what the new word is
The
going to
new,
be.
the new catchphrase, right?
Right. Because it is.
For
Everywhere
the
you go, oh,
funding, yeah.
sorry. For the funding, it's racialized
Yes.
youth. Sorry. For
Ah,
the
okay.
funding, it's
Yeah.
racialized youth, right?
Okay.
I've been in the last project I was on, a $15 million they gave us.
Wow.
$15 million,
Mm.
seven housing communities, and they gave us 7 years. We didn't last 5, and the money ran out in 4.
Right.
Ooh.
Okay?
Wow.
That's because and this is it. And
It's
nothing
money
has
management,
changed.
yeah.
Yeah, and nothing has changed because that's how they see us, right? We are some dollars. Even some of the organizations, we are their dollars. Because
Yeah.
when you speak about what's happening, they got a lick program, they throw programs in, and then it's gone. And then the people that
Well,
live in the
that you got to
community,
remember though.
yeah,
With all fairness, just to interject on that point, with all
yes,
fairness, it all depends on what party or political party is in power. Because what
yes,
happens is, like, you
yes,
know what, they said that, what's Stephen Harper had balanced the books. You had 70 $70 million or something of that, or $70 million deficit that he had, basically, that we were in, so which is
hmm,
basically a balanced book in terms of,
yes,
and that was by cutting the programs. But when the liberals are
yes,
in power, they tend to, even though they're not the best with money
mm,
but the liberals give money, and then the PCs write off of us and take it back and give tax breaks to, so it depends on which party is in power at the time. Depends on how much funding we get, or how much, or how long we get it.
well taken. And I understand that.
But
I
how
fully do.
much? So you sound like you've been involved with other organizations and over the years. So how do you see ghetto stories being different and really having an impact then on the people that you choose to reach? And I want that, and how, where do you see it going, and the growth and the reach?
I see it growing in the sense of people will be able to identify with it
Mhm.
because of the story and because just the name itself. And when I explain and when they understand the acronym,
Mhm.
Hmm.
they will
Say it again.
get when they understand the acronym,
No, say it again. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
She was
Sorry.
about to say,
getting
yeah, getting higher.
higher education to teach others.
Mhm.
So right away, they said, "Oh, what does this mean?" And when I start breaking down what education means for them, you understand? That's where the change will come in. And then I'm going into organizations now. I've already partnered with 2
Mhm.
that are interested in having me come in and explain and also get some programs, real programs happening in the community so we can break down some of these barriers that we have going on, ghetto barriers, as I call them, that we have going on in our communities, from financial to all of it.
So how
Sorry.
how is it now with reaching people who have maybe been from the ghetto. Let's just stick with the word since this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what
Since
we
yeah,
use.
it's a
But coming
conversation.
from
Yes,
right,
The
coming
theme,
from the
yeah.
ghetto,
yeah,
right, and
yes.
have reached other areas or other like just lack of a better word levels in life and I find some people distance themselves from
Oh
the
yes,
past and
oh
the background.
yes.
So how do you meet up on a lot of that?
I meet up on those ones, and then I have I've been having with the total opposite reaction. Folks
Mhm,
are calling me. They're talking to me. They're inboxing me. Elaine, how do we get involved? How
mhm,
do we get involved? I'm here. I had to take the this week off to just sit down and put the pieces together and and connect with everybody. Because they're
mhm,
like, Elaine, how do we get involved? Using the concept that I'm using, they're like, how do we get involved?
mhm.
I have a lot of people calling me, how do we get involved? And I said, just get involved by we're gonna connect, and then we're gonna go to the communities with funding, because that's one of the things we don't have. Because you can't be going into places telling people you have things that you have nothing to give them,
Mm.
because everybody's looking for something. So what is this that we're giving, right?
So
So
for someone listening to
separate,
this, whether it's
yeah,
live or they're listening to the podcast, how
yeah,
would they get involved? You said connect, but how
yeah. Connect with me. I give them elaine.ghettostories@gmail. I'm on Facebook, Elaine Robinson, and I also have Elaine the Ghetto Stories page.
okay.
I have Ghetto Stories on Instagram, and I'm communicating with people what it's all about, asking people to connect with me, get involved, right? So I'm
And
gonna do a
how can people, sorry, I'll let you finish, but how can people
yeah,
be involved? So so funding at this
yeah.
point?
So funding, we're fundraising. So I did a little fundraiser on Saturday to
Mhm,
pay for a space that I'm working on, so I can have some place for us to meet outside of the
nice.
centers,
Okay.
because a lot of the centers we can only meet during their time.
Mm,
So
mhm.
we need to be able to meet on our time. I
Yeah.
was doing it in my in my basement apartment. I can't hold no more.
Hmm.
I used to hold 9 people down there for
Wow.
us to meet, to sit and to talk about how we're going to execute everything in the community. Because
Okay.
there's some shifts need to happen, as in
Hmm.
how things are rolled out, other than us them being feeling like they're being used,
Hmm.
right? And they've been used and abused by these
Hmm.
systems. Enough of it.
So Keith,
So
you mentioned that you were involved with the event that happened on the weekend. So, and you
yeah.
said that it was probably one of the best events that you had been a part of. Why?
Well,
How so?
well,
Yeah.
no. When I said that, I meant in terms of how I was, my comfortability in
Mm.
presenting myself and even being this transparent. And part of it was because they gave us such a long time. I was like, damn, I got like 10 minutes. I got to really think of what I could say for that extended period of time. So,
Uh-huh.
it just forced me to put myself out there. So it was just an elevation process where I was at a certain level. Because this is, let me just say this, because when it
Yes.
comes to just fighting these characteristics, when it comes to indiscipline or fear, it's not something that you're gonna just immediately eradicate as you set out to do it. So for my own personal journey, it's been a growing process, So when I went on her stage last whatever it was the other day, it was I felt that I was on the next level of growth. Like I'm even more comfortable. I'm even exposing myself even more. I'm even saying things I
Hmm.
never said before when the other times that I've been out there. So it was good for me in that respect because I felt literally the growth was happening because of the way I was presenting myself, the things I was saying, and just the way I was just doing my thing as far as being on the stage.
So Elaine, watching Keith up there at your event this
Hmm.
weekend,
Hmm.
how did you feel about that? Knowing that he was one of the youth that went on this trip with you, that you like how
It
and
was it was very moving, in the sense of just sitting down there knowing that um, you have to believe in the things that you set out to do, and you have to remain humble when things don't look the way you want them to look.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? And that's what it did for me, because I remember getting ourselves organized for that trip. And when I saw this person, when I saw him walk there, I'm like, wow. Then I was there listening to him, and the other people were around, and they looked at me like they know me. I've been consistent in the 30 years.
mhm,
I've not let up in the 30 years as to how I see and view people especially people that come from places like where I came from, and many more like me who came from. I'm be consistent in saying that how we have to get the help and how we have to make the changes. And when I saw him there, I said, and then I know that I'm not doing anything wrong. Actually, it confirmed for me. The only thing is now is I'm getting older, so I'm not as effective as I used to be with a certain age group. So now I have to put people, position them in places to do what I would do to bring to get them to where they need to be. That's why it was very moving. It was uplifting
Mm,
when I sat there listening to him. I'm just remembering him when I walked through the door, and I'm reminding him who I was, because
mhm,
he's like, he kind of, you know,
mhm.
he forgot who I was when we met up again, and I had to remind him, and I looked at him, and I'm
No,
like,
no,
I know
you
this
didn't
face.
you didn't remember either. Don't play. Don't
I
play.
remember. I remember because I'm like, where is it? Where is it? And when we finally connected back, and he just brought me back to where and what we need to do.
Wow.
Right? We need to be able to understand what it's about. When he talked about the book and fear and all, I'm past that. Right?
I wanted to ask you.
I'm past that.
I wanted to ask you that, Elaine, and I know you. I mean, you mentioned the story about your father and being able to question him and say what you
Yeah,
had to say to him as
yeah.
a fairly young person. But so, where did you, thinking back, where did you get this from? This confidence and this ability to just speak your mind and just be raw and real with it. Like, where, if you could think
I
back,
had
yeah.
an auntie back home, and
Mm,
this was her behavior.
mm,
And I remember that household, and there's about 53 of us who have come through that household who are in
wow,
a foreign country right now, doing things from England
wow.
to all over. And she was that person. And until this day, I'm still afraid of her. Like I fear this woman. When you hear
And
her
where is
name,
that? Where is that back home?
we're from Saint Anne. We're from Saint
Oh,
Anne.
okay, okay,
Yeah, we're from Saint Anne.
I
And
see.
my auntie was that woman. She's a terrorist, but she's a good terrorist. You know what I mean? You don't ramp when she's concerned.
Mhm,
And she'll call and say, "You mean you're not, and she's not against anything, because she's like, you know, I'm a woman and I know things happen, but that don't make that be a story.
mm,
Because she called me, say, yeah, baby. And what you do? You gonna have baby. You go back to school? So when I called her, that's all she wanted to know. You gone back to
mhm,
school?
mm,
And even when I told her you gone back to school? What you do for yourself? Yeah, that's all she would say. What you do? Right? What you do for
wow.
yourself? And that always stuck out in my head. And she
Mhm,
was raw with it. Like, nobody make man spoil you up, Go
mhm.
sort out yourself. And she still talks to me like that.
Real
Like
talk.
when she finds
Wow.
out what I'm doing, right? Say, let me no know. Let me know where you come from. You remember where you come from? And she always reminded me of that. And my sister was
Amazing.
laughing Saturday night because she said I didn't let her go up on stage to go tell the people them how me give her mommy food and how me had mommy house running like a shelter.
Wow.
Right? I'm a firm believer in, if don't talk about it, honest to God,
Mm,
don't talk about it, be about it.
if you
And
can't do,
and and,
yeah.
and then you have to have some integrity in what you do,
Mm,
right? Because you can't talk it. Because someone will love to talk. It's what you
mm,
do when the cameras aren't on, when the nobody can see you,
very
right? Do you
true.
maintain who you are when nobody,
When the lights cam in action out there, I
when
get.
it's done, right? There's a lot of people, they come in for the hoopla. They might wave the flag. Yeah, 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 we're doing it. We're over here. The last man that came to my neighborhood, I said, why are you here?
Mm.
I said, when you only come around when you vote. And I said, may I go outside and I tell you, yo, no, 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 vote for him. Don't vote for him, right? Because
Wow.
he doesn't know us during time when make us see your face the
Yeah.
rest of the year. Then trust me, we can talk. But if I don't see you the rest of the time, what use are you to us?
Mhm.
So we vote you in. Can we come to you when we want stuff? No, you're gonna tell us there's a process, and you gotta write a letter, and then you need to talk to my secretary. We don't want that. Run that. We be real. How
Amazing.
are you gonna give us something that is tangible that we can touch, that we're able to? You know what I mean? Even in housing, you know what they don't tell the people them, that everybody that lives in Toronto housing is entitled to over $5,000 for post secondary education.
Oh, wow.
right? They don't tell them these things,
Right.
Mhm.
right? When they come around, the only thing that they don't even give you a proper introduction to a neighborhood. When you're moving up in the other neighborhoods, they tell you, show you all the amenities that are about.
Mhm.
Well, this is the new shopping district, right? Da, da, da. In our neighborhood, them just say, yo, over there, so they'll ride, but you can buy the weed. Over there, so Sandra braid here. And don't mess with that one there because you touch our man. Like these are the things that they look when they see our
Oh
communities,
Lord.
right? I'm serious, right? They don't talk, they don't come in and say, okay, how do we help each other and how do we move forward? And the ones that have, they're very scared to come back. And
Mhm.
when they
Word.
do come back, they come back to show what they have. So even if they want to talk, people, bossy boy too bossy, girl too bossy, we can't talk to them, right? And that's kind of the stigma that's attached to us.
Word.
Now,
So
when
that's,
you Mhm.
yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was going to ask you when you said earlier when you broke it down for us and you said achieving no, it wasn't achieving. Getting
Getting higher education
higher
to teach others.
education.
Yeah.
And then you said education not necessarily school, but
No.
do you do you really put an importance on that when you're delivering this message, your
When I'm
message
this,
to young
yes,
people?
yes,
And
yes.
okay. And
And I
so I
emphasize
just
and I
wanted to
emphasize that when I say education of self, because it makes no
mm,
sense if you don't know where you're going.
mhm,
You can't be wanting education if you don't know who you are. So you
mhm.
have to education of self first. So when
Okay.
you understand who you are, then you know what you need to go get. So I understood myself when I got that understanding, and I understand the value of education, the
Right.
institutional education,
Yes.
right? I understood what that meant because when I went in places and after, you know, not having, and they would look at me, but you speak so well. Which
Mm,
university did you go to? And I'm like, I didn't go to any. And all of a sudden I see that, they get taken back. And even when I finally got a college diploma, I saw the difference in how people treated and related to and how they spoke to me,
true.
right? I had another value. So I want to instill that in them. You have to get your education. But when you say education of self first,
Hmm.
because if you don't know yourself, you don't know what kind of education to go and get.
Hmm. And I
Keith,
think,
oh,
yes, go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
yeah. And I'm Keith.
Yeah.
Um, is there a different? You know the movement of ghetto stories, and you know Lane personally. Is there another aspect that she might be missing that that you may see that you may add to this whole ghetto stories movement, and you know?
Well, you know it's funny you say that because for me, I have a passion for a movement that I think would marry well with her movement. But like I said in the beginning, I'm trying not to spread myself too thin, so that's why I don't really speak about it. But since you asked, I always feel like coming from the hip hop world, like I grew up. I feel like I was born and raised in hip hop. That's how I feel. So I grew up listening to the culture, and I know what it does to us. I'm sure we could all, for the most part, relate when you identify with your heroes of that certain culture. And sometimes that's where the ghetto mentality comes from, because you identify with the glorification of the ghetto that often comes out through the music. So I just feel like we can't take our kids away from that because it's the culture. So you can't separate them from youth culture. But what we can do is add something to it. And that thing that I've always felt like we could add to it is an economic mentality. So in other words, the the movement that I have in my mind and that I've always wanted to put forward is about it's called Siege. I even got a name for it, Community Economic Action Group, and ultimately it's about telling young kids, in the hood specifically, yo, you want to learn about money, you want to learn about getting a nice car, you want to learn about getting a nice house and all these different nice things that we talk about material. Well, let me teach you about credit. Let me teach you
Hmm.
about savings. Let me
Wow.
teach you about
Hmm.
Oh,
investing. Let me
oh,
teach you. Let me teach you about all these different things. But debate, just the same way she has the ghetto aspect of the name as almost like a bait and switch. Mine would be more like money. Just you want to ball out. You want to learn
oh.
about just
It's
money.
very funny you said that. Do you
So let me
recall?
let me interject with you guys. So that is a part of the ghetto stories.
Nice.
We
Okay.
have a finances because we were never taught that.
Hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
We
Do
were
you
Me,
never
recall
we
that?
were
me too.
never taught how to have those financial conversations. So that's one of the biggest ones at the table for the ghetto stories.
Hmm.
Nice.
That's one of the
Actually, believe it
biggest
or
ones.
not, Keith, we should partner on that because I don't know if KRC. I've
Hmm.
mentioned that a couple times where,
Hmm.
like, that basically that was my one of the initiatives is to basically go back to the projects and teach 13 to 18-year-olds,
Hmm.
and from you, as long as you can work and you have a SIN number, to teach you about exactly that, about credit and how to build it and how to utilize it and what credit is and things of that nature. Because that is it's really funny you said that because that's exactly something that I've
But
talked about.
I'll say this: as Elaine just said, she's doing it, and you said you have a passion. The thing that I would want to do to make it a little bit more novel than what's happening out there, because I know this is not new, but the thing that I feel like I'm offering, which is a little bit novel and a little bit different, is what I called your adult savings plan. So in other words, when we're an adult, we save for retirement. But when we're adolescent, we need to teach them how to save for adulthood. So the
Hmm.
plan that would be in place, you're teaching them about savings, investing, but there should be a real live component to it where you're taking
Right.
a 13-year-old kid and say, go get $400. I don't
Hmm.
care, go borrow it, save it up, go work for it, but go get $400. Okay, now we're gonna take that $400 and maybe even have an investor or have a
Hmm.
financial entity, whether it's one of these banks or something, match their investment, just like they would do with your 401k or your RSP,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll match it so that this 13-year-old kid is actually having his money grow to the point where he's 19, 20, 21, 22 even, and he's got 30,000, he's got 20,000, he's got 10,000 even.
And listen, th- I'm first of all, we can never have too much of this. So the fact that all three of you are talking about it, I mean, we can't have
And
enough. And the next thing though is I just got the number for a new someone new that I want to speak to, a financial advisor, because just some changes and changes happening in my life, and wanting to just reestablish some things, and look at it from a different point of view now. So I was referred to someone, or he was mentioned last year sometime to me, and so I've so it doesn't stop the knowledge, and erasing bad behavior, and correcting the misinformation we received as young people. And I'm saying this to say, as much as we do need to put um, focus on the young, the youth, and get into their minds from the get-go, but the people raising these children
Right.
need to know just as much, because a lot of some of the bad habits I've had, it came directly from people that I saw growing up. And I hit a certain age, thankfully, that I looked at it and I realized, no, that's not the way you're supposed to be doing things. And I was able to correct some of my bad money habits, let's say. And as a mother now, you know what I mean, it's my daughter is better for it. So I think reaching people at every stage in life, every financial level,
Uh-oh.
you know what I mean, I think it's great. And yeah, I'll support all of it, and I
I
need some of it too. So I'll
I
absorb
think
it
we
as well.
lost Elaine though.
Yeah, it looks like.
Oh, we did, and I was just about to ask her a question as far as like where
Oh well, it's all about me now.
and when. Okay. So no, and you mentioned your which I had mentioned earlier when you said your background with music. And so I don't know how much of that you can get into, just to tell us your
I mean,
sound like it was.
it's such a long journey. It's what aspect of the journey? I mean, I was DJing since I was 14, and then I worked at
Hmm.
Interscope Records just made 2008, I think it was. Yeah, 8 years now. Damn, is it
Mm,
eight?
eight,
Is that
67, 9,
nine
I
years?
guess.
Oh my god!
2017. Yeah, no, math, not my
Oh my
strongest.
god!
I think it's something like
Man,
that. So, but as far as your journey to where you are now, and how, so being someone who dabbled in that or worked in that industry, music, and how much of that experience and what you've learned do you bring into your current projects?
well, the one thing I'll say is I just noticed for myself that whenever I think of an analogy, it's
Hmm.
99% of the chance music business related.
It always, yeah,
Whether it's
from me
a
talking to
rap
you,
song,
always. Just the language you use too. And yeah, yep.
it's all hip hop related. Because so in other words, I say that's my life. So what do I bring from it? It's just my life because I couldn't. It was just I just added to it. So I bring all of it, and then
Hmm.
I've added to it. You understand what I'm saying? So there's
Hmm.
nothing that I don't bring, but at the end of the day, there's certain things that I will focus on more because there's certain
Oh, we got
bad
it.
elements of the culture that I have that I don't necessarily bring or highlight, but the good elements and the thing that I love about the hip hop culture when it comes to the good elements is that there's a certain go get it attitude. Like, they always say the go getters, the hustlers,
Hmm.
the movers and the shakers, because in life, that's the one thing I want to promote when it comes to whether it's my books, whether it's my own life, or whether it's mentoring young kids, or even as you said, when it comes to even adults that may have certain lessons, it's go get it, man. Like go
Hmm.
do it, figure it out. That's my niece, who's like my little daughter. That's if you ask her right now, what's my favorite line to her? Figure it out,
Hmm.
because that's what life is about. You don't have all the answers. You go seek the answer. And the hip hop culture, to me, it represents that attitude and that level of thinking and bravado and whatnot, where you just make a way out of no way, make a dollar out of 15 cents. Those kind of attitudes are figuring it out. You know what I
For
mean?
real, for real.
Real get a
I was
story.
about to say, and that's where the ghetto comes in. But and I think even when people who associate with it or connect with it, who like we said don't necessarily didn't come up in it, but getting close to that, I guess trying to get as close to the bottom as you can, because then that push, that rise is even it's the only way to go. You know what I mean? So it's almost like
Exactly.
you gotta get down before you can really get up, kind of thing. So I think I see the connection there. So now, Elaine, with what's next? So we missed this event this past Saturday, but what's coming up? What's next for you, if you have anything planned, or is that in the works now?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. What's well, I the radio show, the internet radio show, that'll be
Yes.
another platform,
Hmm.
and also one definitely to get the stories out.
Hmm.
So that'll be one of my. I think that's my most precedent one at this moment,
Hmm.
getting the stories out.
Okay. So you're not
So
doing
after
as many live events then. That was more like a launch of fundraisers. So
that
that's
was a
not
launch,
the platform.
and that was a soft one.
Okay.
As I work on, I'm still a work in progress.
Okay.
I'm still a work in progress. I'll be holding some focus groups around and going to some people that I know and people who have asked me, shared with me that they would like to be on board.
Okay.
Like I'm still a work in progress. A lot of it is still, who do I want to reach out to?
Hmm.
I know that I want to be able to connect to the different age groups.
Hmm.
I know that there's a lot of women my age group who have gone through some things and would like to have some conversations.
Hmm.
So I have that group of people. I have the young people who are going through their journeys and would like to have the conversation. So I'm trying to decide. I'm still in a work in
Making
progress
moves.
in making
No,
the
it's
decision.
interesting. So
Yeah.
Started.
definitely
That's the
keep
point.
us
I was saying you started. That's the point.
exactly.
Yes, 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 yes. Because
And
I,
doing
I,
it
I realize that
that.
there's some people that in my age group, right, in our 50s, that need to make some changes.
Hmm.
And they want to hear that other people are doing it, and I think that'll help them to kind of get a foundation as to what they need to do.
Hmm.
So I have that age group, and I'm very passionate about that age group because some of them are still stuck where they were 20 years ago.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's,
And I'm telling them you can't do what you used to do 20 years ago, and question yourself as to why you know
Hmm.
changes are being made.
you see, the important to interject there, the importance of the grassroots approach of what you're doing is if people see, other people making changes where they come from and then making advancements, then they realize they can do it as well.
Yes.
That's the most important part. Like, you can never discount the grassroots movement in any whether in any stage or any fashion. So the fact of me that you started, I applaud you for that.
Hmm.
And bring us awareness of ghetto stories to the front or forefront, and yeah, it's a very it's a very needed aspect to the community. Again, grassroots movements are always the catalyst to greatness.
Yes.
Always. And just the evolution of just seeing you keep pushing and stuff like that. Because there's so many people I know who've had the vision and the dream to do things, and it's hard. And I was gonna ask, like, what keeps you going?
What?
Um, because when you've been knocked down or you don't get as much support or it's not as consistent as maybe you feel it should be and people aren't as excited, um, it takes a lot to keep going. And I'm sure you have, like you mentioned, you have children, you have grandchildren, you have other things that you could be focused on. But I
Mhm.
guess when it's in you and
Yeah.
you're passionate about it, it's you can't it's not almost like no choice. It's just like something you have to do. But how do you keep on keeping on, basically? You
I,
just
I keep keeping on when I look around and I see and feel the young.
hmm mm, hmm
I've been doing this since what, 17, 16, 17, and
wow.
I can't stop. I've tried. I've gone to do other
hmm
things. I've
hmm
tried other things, and it just didn't work for me. And
hmm
every time I try to run, every time I ran away from it, it came right back to me.
Pulling you in,
So
yeah.
yes, and I know the love I bring to it.
hmm
Right, I'm in love with it. Like
yeah.
that one we say
Oh,
you're in
you
love
can
till you,
hear the passion now. You can,
yeah, you're in love till you turn full.
yeah.
That's me.
For real,
Because
for
I'll
real.
do, and I still do, if they need anything that I can do with whatever means that I have.
Mhm.
That's something that I will die doing it.
Mm,
That I'll die doing it. I'll die tomorrow, and don't bother me. I'll die
yeah,
doing it if it means that I'm gonna change some lives. Some real conversations are gonna be had, and some it's gonna make a difference. And people, and they're gonna get it.
yeah. I think it's amazing. In any way we
Bring it.
can be a part of the push or like I'm genuinely interested in it and hearing more about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I did start following you on Instagram just through Keith. So thanks for the
Yeah.
connect. And
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad we were able to
As I'm
connect.
learning, see, that's the thing that I'm surrounded by the young people, so I'm learning how to use these social media. Besides posting a post on Facebook,
Yeah.
right? And I came off Facebook years ago.
Mm.
I got back on because I went to a program Noel Waldron, and after
Oh
going through
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
program, he's like, you have to have a Facebook. This is how we connect. And I'm like, yo, I'm done with the Facebook thing, eh? Yeah, because somebody done hacked into my stuff, and it
Oh
just
no.
bothered me deeply. So I said,
Turn you
okay, I'm gonna come off. Yeah, turn me off.
hmm
Right. And I said, okay, I'm coming back on. And then I started going to a lot of the entrepreneurial events. What am I doing? Because people is, oh, you're an entrepreneur. What name, so? I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I heard the name, Real Talks. I heard it. I
I
know your
love you.
business. You know what I mean? So I'm learning. So I go to all these events, and
Yeah.
I enrolled in a program at Centennial College where they
hmm
talk about entrepreneurship and building a business and all these things. So I'm
hmm
like, wow, okay, so this is what it is. And that's when I started having the real conversation. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. This is like 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, so this is what it is. So I started going to them, learning, to use the social medias to push out things. And
hmm
then when I went to one, and when Facebook came up with a Facebook Live, and
hmm
my friend said, you're not afraid for talk, my girl. You're not afraid for talk. I'm like, well, you don't know, but I have to be mindful. So
Right.
it's like, just, and she said, turn on the thing and just start talking.
Mm.
And that's what I started doing. And people started they're like, oh, we like this. And every time I went to something, and it was vulnerable moments for me. And I'm that person. I'll tell you, it feels good if it don't feel good, and I'm gonna tell you either way. So
hmm
I had to go into these and learning how to use these I'm in a foreign country at times with all these young people, even my grandson telling me, Grandma, why do you buy a phone that you can't use?
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. And the other one told me, You're technologically challenged, Grandma. I'm like, Yeah. So here I am being
Oh,
with these folks, and this is half of the world that we know now is all about technology.
yeah.
You remind me of when I wrote my book. My editor said to me, "You got to get on Instagram." I said, "I got Facebook, and I barely know how to use Twitter." And he said, "No, you got to
Yeah.
get on Instagram." And I said, "Facebook is
Yes.
everything. Why would I want to do anything that's less
Mm,
than?" But
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I'm on it, and it hasn't even been a year, and
Yeah.
I see the difference in how it's used,
Yes.
what it could be used for. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Social
And
media
then
is a
I
very
feel good
powerful
when I
tool. Oh.
Yes, I feel good when I go out in the community now because not that I never felt good before. I feel good and look good every day, all day,
hey.
right?
Right,
Especially
right.
right now, come here, get my hair do. But
Yes, we saw.
you saw. So
Oh
one
gosh.
day I went out and this guy, Miss Ghetto Story, Miss Ghetto Story. I said, what? I'm like, I had to do a double take. He's like, Miss Ghetto
Hey,
Story,
yeah.
boy, me like the things, me like the things, me like the things, taught the things. And I was like, wow.
Nice.
That, and when I heard that, I was just like,
Yep.
and my friend, and
You made
that
the
was a,
connection.
a,
You got
a
it.
moment,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to say, you know what? They are paying attention and they are
Yes.
listening, and I'm making sure that I give them valuable things. Because when everything that I did was when I went to those programs, I'm like, I'm in this program, and this is what they're making me do, people. And I leave, I go and I show them this is what I did in this program. So and being and I firmly believe in age and stage in life
Hmm.
at this stage in my life, and I'm going through these things and people are seeing it, they say, okay, she's serious.
Hmm.
And in order to be successful in this world, you have to become unstoppable,
Mm.
right? And that means you have to silence your critics.
Oh, I like
And
that.
sometimes, yeah, you have to be
Hmm.
unstoppable, because if you're a regular, what are you really doing, right? And
Hmm.
it's fine, and no disrespect to Keith, I must say this has nothing to do with you. There are a lot of people who are writing books, but some of them have to write and some of we have to read,
Mm.
Mm.
right? So we can all be writers, right? So I know that we can all be writers. Some
Hmm.
of some of the captain and some of we have a sail.
But that's what I
You
always say about
understand?
entrepreneurialism. Not everybody can be
That's
an entrepreneur.
not everybody can be,
Somebody got to work.
right? So and we
Right.
have to and we have to understand that and own ourselves in the journey, because that's all this is, That's all it is. It's a journey, and you have to own who you are in the journey,
Exactly.
Very
right? And
true.
that's what Ghetto Stories is all about. I had to
Hmm.
own who I am in the journey, and that word used to piss me the hell off,
Hmm.
right? So instead of, and yeah, I used to tell people about themselves when they come, where you come call Ghetto, you're mad. Oh, and I would deal with them like that. And I have both sides of me, because I have the street in me,
Yep.
and I know, and I've sit in the people in the institutions, and I've
Yes.
got the papers to prove that too. Like
Mm.
I can do both.
Hmm.
So I use both to get the message that I need to get across,
Across. Yeah. Yeah.
across. And that's all it means for me. That's where the ghetto story come from. It's my story first, because I had to own my story to in
Yeah.
order to get the help, in order to go where I needed to go. And that's what I
Well, it's.
tell people when I meet them, and when they're asking me what is this thing all about. I
Hmm.
had to own it, right? I had to own it, and that's where people, when you want to help people or
Hmm.
help lives or change lives, you have to own your story first, because you
First.
can't help if you're empty,
Mm-mm.
right?
Hmm.
If
And you
you're
can't help if you're broken.
if you're
Serving
broken,
from that empty
right?
vessel. Yep,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
true.
What I'm saying,
Hmm.
empty barrel make the most noise. You can always tell when
Mm.
people are hurting because they're just making noise,
Mm.
right? I'm over it long time ago,
Hmm.
right? Long time ago, I got over it, and I went out and I sought the help that I needed to
Hmm.
get where I needed to go.
To make the difference.
So, yeah, to make the difference.
Well,
And
no,
when they
I'm
see,
glad. I'm
yeah,
glad we were able to catch up because I mean, it's one thing like I haven't talked to you, and it's so when Keith sent me your link and I went on to your Instagram, and it's one thing to see, and you could tell certain things. I was like, okay, she looks fun and um confident and spreading a positive message, but to hear um like truly we can hear your passion. I know I can hear and feel your passion, just how you're speaking, and it's just coming from such a real place, and I think that's part of your success so far, and I'm
yeah,
sure that's what's going to
Yeah.
keep this thing going, and especially with your YouTube channel that you're launching and your
Yeah.
online radio show. I'm sure it's just
Yes.
gonna
And
spread. So
that's what I
yeah.
found for myself too. Like you have to
Hmm.
be what you're. It's like people who are
Yes.
drug counselors. A lot of them are former drug addicts. So
Addicts.
Mm-hmm.
if
Yes.
you
Mm-hmm.
don't have your own personal journey that you're
Hmm.
promoting to somebody get over, it's
Hmm.
almost like, what do you know? It's almost like, what do you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But if you could say, listen, I was once you. I was
Hmm.
once there.
Yeah.
It resonates more, and people sit up and listen more. Like for instance, when I was writing my
Exactly.
book Fighting Fear, and I had my beta readers, and I had people just read it and give me their feedback, the the majority of people that read it said, "We just want more of you in there." Like you're
Mm.
giving this
Oh yeah.
the scientific response to fear and all these different things about discipline, but your stories of what you personally overcame and how you overcame is what they mostly. So I had to go back and
Connect
just
with.
find different
Mm-hmm.
stories and just add more in there, because that's what resonates with people the most, when they feel like you actually been there and you actually
Mhm.
can connect.
Listen, even on a personal tip, like I'm a mother. I've mentioned this a few times, and my daughter. So I mean, I could tell her do this, do that, don't do this. But when I bring a story and I
Mhm.
tell her when I was your age, or when I was, and I don't give it that preachy talk. When I'm like, listen, this is a story, and I make it, and I give
How
her
old
the
is she?
details. Okay, come now. You're gonna age me? No, I'm kidding. Own it, girl. Own it. No, she is 14. So,
Okay.
that's a very interesting age. And I mean, I can't totally relate. Like I can go back a bit and times have changed. But when I bring anytime like, in the last few years, and when I've given her stories with the story, like the real story and the personal experience, and it's not always. I mean, I don't go dirty, and I didn't really have much dirt to tell her at that age. But when I tell her, mistakes or things that I would change, and just give it to her. In that way, and then she connects with the story and saying, oh wow, my mom really, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like she kind of gets it, because yeah, I
My
remember,
mom was
And
hip.
that's
yeah.
one of that's one of those most important. If you're going to do anything, that's
Mhm.
one of those most important things you do, because if you're not authentic in it and
Mhm.
being able to share it from a real space,
Mhm.
you they'll hear it and they're gonna hear it in a way that and you're gonna be very disappointed
Yeah.
Exactly.
when they
Yeah.
come back. You understand?
True.
My grandson is gonna be 18 next month.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right? My grandson at 18 next month. My grandson and my granddaughter will be 15.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Okay.
and we, yeah, well, the three of them. So there's 18, 15, and 13.
Okay.
And I the other day I sat with my daughter. She
Mhm.
just turned 36,
Oh wow.
and I said to her, I looked at her and I said, make sure you're having the right conversation. Cause remember, my dearest, at 36, I became a grandma. You
Mm.
made me a grandma at
Mm.
36,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
make sure that you're having the right conversations with both of them, because his father was 17 when he came into the world, right? You were almost
Mhm.
18 and he was 17, because you're a year older than him. So just make sure that you're having those authentic conversations. And
For
the other
real.
day when I hang out with my granddaughter, she said, Grandma, I love coming to your house. You know what I mean? Because I said, yo, this is what's going on. This is
Yeah.
what's going on. This is the realness in your world. Because
Mhm.
your world right now is different from mine. Back in my day when we did stuff, we nobody knew, right?
Mm.
In you guys' day now, when everything you guys do,
Gosh.
social media,
Instant.
there's
Yeah.
not, you don't have a moment to
Can't
breathe
hide.
before, you don't even get a chance to see it before somebody has posted it.
It's telling you about it. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Crazy.
you need to be mindful of what it is and how we are having those conversations, because
Mhm.
they're seeing things that you and I are not able to even see at times because we're not
True.
privy to it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right. So
it's important that you said that.
yeah.
You know what? Part of it, what I've always stated is this: is that, you know what, the mic is always on. That's
Mm.
the motto I live by. I tell every young person, I say, look, man, the mic and the camera is always on.
Always. Always. So
Mhm.
there's a moment when you have to think twice.
Mhm.
Even things that are very personal and very private, you think it is. And then when they turn on that thing, it becomes something totally
Mhm.
different,
Mhm.
right? And if we're not having those conversations with our children in our homes, okay, we don't want
Mhm.
other people to be having that, because they're gonna give it the
Exactly. They're
information.
gonna get it their way. Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
then we'll be very upset. Yes, because full
Yeah.
parents didn't talk to us. Remember, our parents spoke language that we didn't understand. It was parables. Remember,
Mm.
how what pumpkin belly. Remember that one, right?
Love that, man. That
Okay.
but my old time
All
Wow.
time
granny
granny. You know that?
down
And
in
then
the
when you
country.
all
Okay.
right. So the conversations, we have to be mindful
Yes. And
how
to
we have
adjust,
them.
to adjust, to
Yes.
communicate
Yes.
effectively. It's true.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, because there's communication and there's effective communication.
Hmm.
Because some
Hmm.
people can communicate, but they don't do it very well,
True.
right? So
Well,
we
we
have
all
to,
can
Comes
communicate.
across.
There's
Yeah, we
yes,
well and
yes,
we've done we've done a
we've
good
done that. And I thank you guys
tonight.
for having me. Thank
No,
you
our
for
pleasure.
inviting me, Keith. Big
Yep.
up, enough love,
Yeah.
Always,
enough
always,
respect for
Yes,
bringing me in this, in this platform.
for
always.
sure.
I enjoyed listening, and I enjoyed listening to you guys.
No, no doubt. You
it's
trust
it's
me.
it's
Very
true.
entertaining. Very entertaining. I was
Oh,
the
I would say
knowledge, the
we're
passion, and the
listening to
comedy at
you
the same
too.
time. I love it.
yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me. If in my workplace, everywhere I
Yes.
go, this is it. Because I
You
said
bring it.
if we don't learn how to laugh,
Yes.
right? Some people can't laugh. Like you wonder. I
Yeah.
one day I tell you what I did to a lady on a bus the other day. About a year ago, actually, she sit down and her face looked like 21 days of severe rainy weather, and she looked painful. And she
Oh
over
God.
and I'm like, I said, "Ma'am, what is it?" And she said, "Well, you make me say, what is it? And what can be wrong? So
Mm,
you see how you look?" And
mm.
she bust a little corner smile. Me say, "Lord God, man, it can't be that bad." And then
Wow.
she kind of looked and she kind of caught herself because she looks, and some people, they just look
Mm,
ugly. And I say to
yeah.
people, I put out a post the other day, can you imagine if we look like the things we've been through?
Ooh. Mm,
Some of us couldn't come a road.
mm. So
Couldn't,
true. Oh my
right?
gosh. Yeah.
Couldn't come. Because
Mm-hmm.
we have to be able to create that balance. Because if you walk with everything,
Mm,
is what you cannot walk with them. You can't walk with
mm-hmm.
these things because they eat away at you. You can
Mm-hmm.
always tell the people them they're not in a good place because they just look like the stuff. Like when you see them, they
Mm,
swell like bullfrog. What did they do you? What happened? Why do you look like that?
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they're so busy worrying about what other things should be. When they release themselves of that, then you can see the
Mm,
goodness will come out and they can
shine
a
through.
genuine smile.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I'm that person. Because no matter what I
Amazing.
go on, you can't take with my energy and you can't take with my smile. You can try,
Mm.
but you're not going to. You understand?
Sound like a post to me.
Amazing.
Yeah, you know
I
what I mean?
know, right? I love
Trust me.
that.
All
Yeah.
right. You mean Instagram that one there, tweet that one there. You see me? Run that one there,
I
Facebook
was
that one
about
there.
to say, so how do
Because
people keep up with you and follow you?
yeah, they
What is
follow
your
me. I'm
handle?
on Facebook.
For those of us who don't, we got to find you. So do we look
So
you
you
up?
gotta find me, get us stories on Instagram. And
Okay.
when my head tech me put out some nice like something and passionate and feel good. Same thing with the Facebook. When the live catch me,
Oh
when the
God, love
passion
it.
catch me, I
All
put it
right.
out there. Sometimes I put out the post, sometimes it's other things. But after the launch, the direction will be a little different. It'll be more the stories of the people who
All
I've
right.
spoken to, who are willing to come out and share their stories. So
So
that would
Ghetto
be the
Stories on
yes,
Facebook
yeah,
and Instagram.
and Instagram, and I'm on Twitter too. But I'm on
Twitter.
Twitter,
Okay.
Miss Marvelous. Because you don't know, I'm
It's
marvelous.
marvelous. Ooh,
Yes, I've
okay.
made that Miss Marvelous, and it's the same thing. All of it is consistent
All right, all right.
with the
Oh
message. The
yes, because
message is no
I did
different.
link you and it's a
Yeah,
new thing that they do. So it did
yeah,
show me
yeah,
your Twitter handle. So I'll make sure to go follow.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Keith,
It's
how do
there.
people keep up with you and connect with
How
you?
do we keep up with the real Keith Hill?
The
The
real Keith
real,
Hill,
real.
not
The
the fake
real
ones out
Keith,
there.
not the fake one. You understand? The
Well, I
real
always
Keith
like to give
Hill.
my website because everything is just there. KeithHillJr.com,
Nice.
All right,
KeithHillJR.com. You
nice.
can get my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the
Mm-hmm.
books, and everything is just there. But my Instagram is real.keithhill on Instagram.
Okay. So we'll check the site. As usual, I do have posts that do have your handles in it. So but I'll post some more of that. Before I close Kinetic, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, I mean, you know what? It's pretty well rounded. We got a sense of they explained themselves
Yeah.
quite well. I really wanted to hear a little more Keith, since we've covered Elaine's ghetto stories, permanently. I was like, I wanted to hear a little more about the TV show and the movement, and what's next and things like that. that nature. But
Well, I
that
feel
can
like the
all
TV show he's holding back a bit. He's not give it
Well,
all
I'm
up.
holding back, but you gotta understand. I never even told anybody. Like I've been working in C-suite, just
Exactly.
so for me to even say that, it's a big step because
Yes.
I just got to the point where I came to like this thing is really happening. Let me just put this out there. We just secured as a location of a mansion, so we're gonna have an
To
exclusive
film.
use of the mansion for 4 weeks for a whole month. And once we got that locked in, I said, "Oh, it's going down. Like now, it's
All
official."
right.
You know what I
you
mean? So
said
that's what I'm.
mention. I want to be a part of this show.
Can then I was about to say he can make a
Bring it
cameo,
down
make a
a
little
little. Let's go
appearance. What's
past
up?
where
Hey,
you
there's
wanna
enough
do
for
it.
We get
everybody.
cameo.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
There's enough for everybody. Only if
We,
KFC promises to make a cameo as well.
Oh, for sure. As long as you've got hair and makeup, honey, then I'll be there.
Trust
And
me.
a little
Trust
wardrobe,
me. Once in a while, you gotta fling on a little hot girl makeup and nice it up. You
right?
see me?
There you go.
Yes.
Trust me. No, it's
No,
gonna be real fun. It's gonna be. Can I just say this? Like real
Mm,
talk. It's gonna be a fun story where it has to do with family, but the realness of the streets, but also what the juxtaposition is like from having coming from the hood and now being multimillionaires. So if you could just picture that
mm,
dynamic,
that's a.
you
mm.
know, coming from the hood to being rich, from the streets to even the church is in there. So it's a nice
Nice.
melting pot that just says there's something in it for everybody. But it's
Nice.
it's all
So,
married, it's all man. And the thing that I'm proud about most is that I wrote it. Like it's literally
Rhoda,
done.
that's what
It's
I'm
just
saying.
it's just
Yeah,
going through
nice.
editing now, making some comedians punch up the jokes a little bit to make sure that it
Mm,
actually
you
hits.
see when you
You know what I'm
that
saying?
part?
Huh?
mm-hmm. No, no, no. She's talking about her hair right now. There's a delay.
Oh.
I can hear that.
So is it is
Yeah,
it
but
is
no.
it been
Yeah.
has it
You,
been picked up?
No,
you
what we're
see.
doing is
It's
this
a
is the
pilot.
game.
Yeah.
The brother that I'm doing it with, who's handling all the I don't know all the technological stuff like the filming, the tech.
Yeah.
He and I committed to doing the project. We said we're shooting this thing and we're putting it out on the web, which is
Okay. So well,
ultimately
yeah. So webisodes. Okay.
it's a
Great.
webisode, but we're already in the discussions to talk to some people about putting it on the real platform. But we're saying we're not even waiting to see if they want it or not. All we're doing is
Mhm.
making sure that. And let me just say this before
You're
I
ready.
even finish
Mm,
my point with that. Any
Yes.
project that I'm a part of, what this fighting fear and doing discipline did for me, it made me realize, as a person who's always wanted to do business and always tried to do different things, I don't want to do anything that I can't see all the way through with what I have access to. So, in other words, I'd love to sit here and tell you it's going to go on TV, which is the goal. But at the end of the day, I can only guarantee you that it's going to happen and we're going to put it out on whatever platform we can
And
because
regardless of whatever happens, happens. Yeah.
exactly.
mm.
You know
All
what I
right.
mean? We're just
I
we're
love
just seeing
that.
it through.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Great.
Well, we'll be looking out for sure. We'll be actually in it, right?
Well,
Greg?
do
So,
do remember,
uh-huh.
you can give me a little part in it.
You
In it.
Got
have to
to,
eat it. You have to get
Me
a
me
big
me's
pot. No.
me's a
right?
me's a actress with a H.
Nice.
Oh, geez. No, but
Yeah,
for
I'm so
sure, for
dying to
sure.
say so much more about it, but just I'm just
Right.
Yeah, I
We'll
love
be
it.
following up though, and I'm sure we're
We-
gonna when the first episode drops, you got to come back and give us more at that point when it's all. I mean, I know that's a bit of ways away, but
Well,
we'll.
April. He said April's around the corner. We're gonna blink
well,
and we're
just
gonna be
say
in
just say
April.
May because end of April
Yeah.
going into May. The last 2 weeks of
Yeah.
April and the first 2 weeks of May.
Okay. So we'll be
Nice.
Put the
looking out.
editing, all that
We'll
stuff
catch
down.
up.
And what is it? A summer drop? Like because you know what? When you edit down, you get all that stuff. When you shoot, you edit.
Yeah, it's gonna be
You
this
know,
summer.
you get it refined. You know what I mean? You go back and reshoot parts that you may not like. So we're looking
Mm,
for a summer drop, or are we looking?
Summer,
Yeah.
summer.
Okay. So
sounds
Yeah,
so
good.
definitely
we're talking
summer.
about July drop.
We just said summer, so I don't even know because, like I
Uh,
said, I don't
Trying to lock
all
you
the
down to like.
I know.
yeah.
I don't know all the
Trying to get
I
it
don't know the
down.
technical stuff. I'm just learning as I go. I wrote it,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
the producer's holding my hand, going the rest of the way through it. Like I don't know acting, I don't know
Yeah.
directing, I don't know none of that. So I'm just following I just wrote it, and now I'm watching it come to
You
life
bring it
through.
to life. All right.
You know what
There
I'm
you go.
saying?
Yeah.
That's how most things are born, my
Powerful.
friend.
Power
Powerful.
Yeah,
There we
man.
go.
All
Well,
You
this was
heard
right.
a
it. You heard it
powerful
here first on Cake
conversation.
with KFC. You heard it
There
here
we
Yes.
first.
go.
And
Remember
and I
that.
thank you guys once again. I sit here feeling most grateful to be a part of this.
Mhm.
No,
Okay, so
we're
thank you.
grateful for
Thank
giving
you.
your time and sharing your time and being on the
Yes.
show.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Likewise, likewise.
And I'm sure we'll
Yes,
connect
yes,
again.
yes.
For anybody who's just
Yes.
tuning in or tuned in halfway and wanted more, this is available as a podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, even, and so look for the podcast there. It will be up
Okay.
tomorrow and YouTube as well. So if you want to share this broadcast with a friend, repost it. Feel free, and that's where
All
you
right.
can find it. You can find that on my Instagram page, Cake with Care C. I have a post, and I'm going to repost it actually with all the places you can find this and all of our other live to air broadcasts that
Okay.
we've
Wicked.
shared. Yeah, we've done since almost a year now, eh, Kinetic? It's been almost,
Wow.
yeah,
Right.
Wow.
we'll be
So we're
celebrating a year soon.
where are you guys officially located?
Well, we are based in Toronto, the
Oh, all
GTA.
right.
Yeah.
All right. All
But
right. All
as we
right.
got listeners down south in the US,
All
all
There's
all
worldwide
right.
actually, just because vexradio.com, that where we broadcast on, has listeners worldwide. So feel free to check them out for the best in hip hop and R&B as well. That's vexradio.com. They
Nice.
play 24/7, and that's where you can also find all episodes of Cake with Care C. And
Ooh,
until next time,
nice.
yeah, but we'll
Now,
definitely connect again.
now I get to add this to my resume.
There you go. Hey.
What?
But
Hey,
we'll definitely connect again. I'm
big
very, very
things.
interested
Please do, please
in
do. And I'm grateful once again, and
yeah,
I'll say it because
and listening to your show when it comes out
yes.
and stuff like that. So let us know, and
All
but like
right.
I said, we've already started the connection here. We'll continue on Facebook and Twitter and all that
Thank
good
you.
stuff, and yeah, we'll keep it going.
All right. Stay
So
blessed, people. Never stress. Stay
yes, and
blessed. Never
Yes,
stress.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
I
All
And have
love
a
right.
this.
great
This is great
night.
messages
Yeah.
tonight. Yes, Elaine. Thank you.
Yes. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's love. It's
Oh,
love. One love.
One love.
all
One
right,
love.
All
Keith.
right.
Bye.
Thanks
All right.
again, and we'll
Yeah, man.
connect for sure.
All right, cool.
Bye.
Kinetic.
Kinetic.
Yeah, another one
Bye. Bye.
down.
Bye. Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
All
Bye.
right. Good
All right,
night.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Okay. Take care.